person, thank you for coming out. Thank you for coming. I think you prepare. That's so important. You care. Sometimes we think that folks really don't care what we do. And we're always worried about the attendance that we have. I was talking with Ms. King, and she was saying that every vote counts. Every person counts. So thank you, Ms. King, for encouraging me that every vote counts. And so just 1 minute, we're going to be going live, and we're going to begin by having our esteemed illustrious president of the NAACP and then the city chapter will give us some opening words, and then we will then acknowledge who we are going to be spending time with this evening. Because our response hasn't been what we anticipated, because it's also a school board meeting tonight, but everyone has been invited. We're going to have a different format for sharing, and we're going to have just 2 chairs, and there'll be a very intimate one-on-one, asking questions of the person who wishes to serve us and to seek our well-being. Nothing, no pretense, just intimacy, being relational, being honest, and above all, just sharing themselves. Amen? And we use theological terms. And so it's 6:30. We're going to ask that Dr. Kareem Shabazz will come up and give us some opening words. Just give him some encouragement.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good evening, Reverend Miller. Thank you very much. Don't clap too long, because the longer you clap, the more I'll talk. I'm joking. Thank you. First of all, let me thank Reverend Miller and his team and everyone for this candidates night. We are now on the air with WEHA. Let me thank William Hawks, the owner of WEHA, Council President Aaron Randolph is in the audience. We just came from doing the NAACP radio show, and we said that we would be live with the candidates night. Let me thank also Derek Kason, who's an NAACP member and is on the live remote, and also Jared, who is in the studio to make sure that we have the direct line so people can hear. The candidates night is very important for the NAACP, because even though the NAACP does not endorse candidates, we want to make sure that people hear. We want to make sure that people hear who's running and what they want to do. We want to stress the importance of voting. Also want to recognize my colleague, Councilwoman Stephanie Marshall, who's also the Ladies Council. Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, Council President, for your attendance. Let me say 3 things. I'll turn it over to Reverend Miller and sit down. First of all, thank you. Secondly, the NAACP has yard signs. I should have brought some, but if you want some, I will give it to you. We are distributing yard signs, and the yard sign says, NAACP says vote November 5th. We are not going back. We're not going back. That's what the yard sign says. So if you want a yard sign, let me know. We'll get it to you so we can put it up. The NAACP does not endorse candidates again, but we do encourage people to vote. We encourage people to be involved, and we encourage people to understand the significance of voting. So the yard sign says NAACP says vote November 5th. November 5th. We are not going back. The next thing I want to say is that I was talking to Reverend Miller. Normally, when we have candidates night, we have candidates from both parties who attend. Normally, that's what happens. And normally, we have almost a 100% rate of attendance from both parties when we have candidates night. And normally, we don't have any gaps in the races that are currently engaged. So maybe it says something about the climate that we're living in, that we don't have all of the candidates that we invited, but that's obviously the prerogative. I just want to say, and Reverend Miller is going to say it again, so that everyone understands, we have invited all of the candidates. we have invited all of the candidates. We have invited all of the candidates, and people make a decision whether they want to come or not. That's their choice as a candidate. But I want everyone to be clear, it's our practice, it's our procedure, it's our process that every election night that we have as NAACP, we invite everyone. And whether they come or not, obviously, is their choice. I just want to say that again. Thank you for coming. You're going to hear from candidates who want to be elected or re-elected. I would encourage you to listen to them and to vote. And again, if you want a yard sign, the Atlantic City motto for the NAACP is that we want people to vote, we want people to be involved, and we are not going back. And thank you again for coming in. Thank you again.
Let's all just breathe. The gift of life. Life is so meaningful. We have tonight we have 4 persons who responded due to scheduling and things of that nature, and so we're not going to just procrastinate and just throw away time. And we'll have, and how we're going, our format, like I mentioned earlier, there'll be 2 chairs. The questionnaire or interviewer and the candidate will be on the other side. And we'll we have a list of questions, and we'll give each person 12 minutes to answer the questions. We'll give them 12 minutes to answer the questions. I'm sorry, I have personality. And so then we have 4 interviewers. Be myself will be 1 interviewer. And Ms. Natalie Devonish will be another interviewer. We also have Bishop William Green with another interviewer. And of course, we have one of our own, Brother Tribal Queen from the community, who will be an interviewer. Amen. So I'm going to invite up a young lady who I'm going to interview, who is going to be a Democratic candidate who's running for Commissioner at Large, and her name is Ms. Kim O'Brien. Amen. Just give us some encouragement. And we're not here to hurt. We are here to help and to explore and just to get to know you. That's right. Bring that word. Yeah. Would you please help your lady up, sir? Please. That's what men do in Atlantic City. That's what we do in Atlantic City. There you go. And would you please, please sit over here, and this is your microphone. So we have some questions. I'm sorry? Oh. Tell Pamela to pull back there when you're busy.
Guys, please talk into the microphone for the radio, please.
Yes, sir. Talking to the microphone for the radio.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I have to start talking again. All right. So, some questions we have for you this evening. Tell us about yourself. Who is Miss Kim O'Brien?
So I grew up in North Wildwood in Cape May County. I grew up with a single mom who raised 3 of us by herself. We were very poor. We were on welfare. We often didn't have a car. So that was my experience as a youth. I worked hard in school. I graduated 3rd in my class. I studied English and Spanish at Johns Hopkins University. After that, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Russia. So I lived in a Russian village and taught English. I fell in love with teaching. So then I went off to come home and go to New York and get my master's degree from Columbia University, while I taught in the inner city in the daytime. I taught in the Bronx. And then I got married and moved back down to the area. I've been living in Atlantic County for 22 years. I've been married for 24 years, and I have 2 daughters, 20 and 22, and they're amazing. One just graduated college, and one is in college.
Is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve in county government?
I think what motivates me most is, as a teacher, I've been able to connect families to resource, support families, and connect them with resources, and just really give them the kind of help that people they need along the way, the kind of help to help them deal with poverty. So just the opportunity to serve people and help them with overall resources. And there are a number of issues that they need help with. Transportation in the county can be a challenge. When I look through what our families are going through just to get vaccines for their kids, it's too complicated.
of skills or experiences prepare you to serve as in county government?
I got my start as a young person in the Peace Corps, living in another culture and understanding what it's like to be an immigrant. And Atlantic County is very diverse. We have a lot of different cultures here. This is my 29th year of teaching. And as an ESL and Spanish teacher, I work with many, many different cultures. So I think understanding different people, have different ways of looking at the world, different approaches, different languages, and knowing how to work with them would really benefit me in public service in Atlantic County. That's certainly one thing. And then as a teacher, we deal with conflict all day long. And there's a way to do it right, and there's a way to do it wrong. And so we try to meet people where we are, try to find common ground, try to be problem solvers together, whether it's with the kids, with each other, us with parents, us with our administration, us with the community. We just try to keep it, what can we focus on, what can we accomplish together? And so that would be, those are some skills that I think would be beneficial.
Thank you. What makes you different from the other county candidates?
I think having some service abroad, really shaped me, as a young person, and just having a different outlook on life, having some diplomatic experience, just supporting families all of these years, and also just being able to speak Spanish. We have a large Hispanic population in Atlantic County. Still have some Russian skills as well. But just having language skills, be able to speak to people and make them comfortable to tell you, what they need so that we can begin problem solving.
Mm-hmm. What do you see as the major issue facing county government today?
Well, we have a landfill that's affecting a lot of communities right now. Eventually we're going to need a new place for it, and so maybe that's something we should have been looking at, before now, with a long-term plan. So that's one issue that's pressing. But another overall issue is just jobs. We need well-paying union jobs that provide health care. As I see my students, and I think when they leave me, what am I preparing them for? One of my students is driving a school bus now. And he was all excited first day of school when he saw me, and I was all excited for him. And he's doing a great job, and that's not an easy job. You need someone really kind and patient, but strong and good, safe. But I wonder, does he have benefits? Is he going to be okay? Is he going to want to live? Is this expensive to live in Atlantic County now? So I really want to see us get jobs. When I think of economic development, to me, that doesn't mean companies come in, make a lot of money, or they're shareholders. That means we have union, middle-class, affording jobs. So,
Are you familiar with the county budget?
yes.
Okay, so regarding the county budget, where would you look to make budget cuts, and what area would you consider not cutting?
So that's a great question, because the commission over the years has tried to keep county taxes low. And everyone wants taxes to be low. So you always have to weigh out, okay, well, what are we getting out of that? And would it be worth it to spend a little more in certain areas? One thing that I've been talking about that I have experience as a green team leader in my school is we can invest in our infrastructure with free training from the state on upgrading and making our infrastructure more efficient, which could save money. So it could be greener, and in this way we could save money. So for example, just the buildings themselves, the lighting, the water fixtures, all of these things with a free energy audit from the state will come in and can help, coach us. Every town can have a green team, every school can have a green team. They're very successful. So I like that program, because if you want to come in with an idea on where you might want to spend money, you also want to come in with an idea where can we save money. So that's the first part, that's where we could save some money. And then where could we spend some money? Well, again, making things a little easier for families, whether it's transportation to get to the resources that they need, which can vary, or looking at things like vaccines. We used to have a mobile dentist in the school that would seal the kids' teeth. We don't have that anymore, and we're seeing more emergency dental visits that the kids need, and it's painful. So I want to see our kids not go through unnecessary hardships if we can provide better resources for them.
Atlantic County has many residents who rent, and rent increases over and over again, and many people remain vulnerable to housing insecurity. So what measure would you take at the county level to protect renters?
So renters have definitely expressed a lot of hardship as they're going knocking on doors, not just on their rent, but even on their water bills spiking and electricity. And we need, the workers to be able to be in the area to, do all, our tourism and all the things that we need to do locally. There are other towns that have models, for example, there was one town that converted a shopping mall into additional housing. I mean, I think we need to be creative and not reinvent the wheel, but just look at what successful towns are doing to help alleviate, this problem with renters. And it's really skyrocketed. I've never seen so many people posting on Facebook looking for a rental. And we also have a lot of people buying up homes here for second homes. So could there be some incentive, for people, who want to stay and live here year round and, make that easier for them?
How would a county commissioner best communicate with her constituents?
Well, to be honest, I don't think the building is very welcoming. I think that's something that we could maybe look at some point. The area where you can get up and speak is very small. I think I heard recently they finally have a microphone for people to be heard. Our running mate, Susan Lazarchik, is disabled. She's an amputee, and she's supposed to get 2 weeks notice just to go around and be able to access that building and then have to walk around the back. So making the building accessible, but then also having like town halls. Atlantic County is a big place. And so running at large, I've been driving and knocking all over Atlantic County. And there's no reason why you can't, go to the common area of an apartment building, or you can't go, to different public places and offer to meet people. Because, they're not necessarily going to come to the Atlantic County Commissioners meeting. So I think having town halls would be a great thing to do.
To our friends gathered here with us in the audience, what would you say is the primary work of county government?
And county government serves the people. So we need to keep people safe. We want them to be healthy. We want them to be thriving. So we need our infrastructure to work. We need our roads to be drivable and not flooded all the time so people can get to work. We need, things to be clean and the air and everything, all of our infrastructure to be safe. There's a dam in Mays Landing that's, fallen to ill repair, and now FEMA has to step in and fix it. So, with a long-term plan, these are things we have to look out for. We have to make sure it's safe for our residents. So primarily, we are servants of the people. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, Mr. Premier, 8 seconds left. What is your last statement? Look right into my eyes and say it.
I genuinely believe in public service. There were people who helped me along the way when I was poor. I can't repay them, but I can pay it forward. And I would love very much the honor to do that.
Thank you. I think that concludes your time. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for giving us some of yourself and your heart, your dreams, your goals, and thank you for coming today. Let's give a round of applause, please. And an opportunity just to share and get to meet them a little bit more. And the next person we have to share, spend time with, is a young lady who's also running for elected office, and she is here tonight, and she is Miss Joanne Famulano. Is that right? Let's give her an applause. And she will be interviewed by Miss Natalie Devonish. Let's give her a round of applause. Let me help these ladies up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Absolutely. So we're going to start with the first question. Just tell us more about yourself.
I was born and raised in Atlantic City. My parents had several small businesses. The last one they had was on the boardwalk. So I kind of grew up on the boardwalk, being able to run on the beaches, and just being a kid in Atlantic City was the best upbringing in the world. I currently live in Pleasantville. I've been there for the past 24 years. And actually living in Pleasantville is the place that I have lived the longest in my entire 68 years. And I enjoy being in Pleasantville. It's a wonderful town. I came back to Atlantic City. I had been in Florida. I came back to Atlantic City in 1979 to go to work for the casinos. So working in casinos and being in the casinos are very near and dear to my heart. The people who work in there now need all the help they can get because they have so much competition coming in from other cities nearby. So we have to really help the casinos. I was a small business owner for many years in Pleasantville. I owned a sub shop. I was on the Pleasantville School Board for 6 years. I don't have any kids, but there was a definite need for people to be on the school board. Now I'm nearing the end of my 4th year as a city council person in the city of Pleasantville. So Pleasantville has really been very good to me, and I hope that I've been good for Pleasantville.
Thank you. What why should you be elected to county government?
Because I do have experience. Like I said, I was on the school board for many years, and anybody who was ever on the school board or knows of anybody on the school board knows that that is the perfect training ground for any kind of work in city government. You have to learn how to pick your battles, what battles you're going to pick, and what hill you're going to die on. And for me, it was always that doing the right thing. And I don't care who it was. If I didn't like you for some reason, but something happened to you that was not right, that was egregious, I would fight to help everybody. And I mean, that's just been what really brought me up. And I continue on with the same thought process in the city of Pleasantville on the city council.
Thank you again. So what do you see as the major issues facing county government?
The same issues that my running mate Kim McBride stated, pretty much are all the same. Everybody can agree on it. We need jobs, jobs, and more jobs. We need good paying jobs. We need infrastructure. We have antiquated roads. We have antiquated bridges. And we have antiquated thinking on the commissioner's side. We have to be more reactionary instead of, or being more proactive instead of being reactionary. We've got to look at potential problems before they become really big problems. And we need to deal with these problems as they arise.
How would you determine your budget priorities?
The budget for the county right now is $262 million. And in most places, elected places that I've been in, the school board and the city council, 85% of that goes to wages, salaries, benefits, pensions. So that's got to come right off the bat. But they have a problem. Meadowview Nursing Home. They're looking to turn that over to the state to be a veterans center and hospital because they're not able to fill the beds. There's 100 beds a day in Meadowview that are left unfilled. And they blame it
on the fact that they can't get help because of the pandemic. 4 years later, they're still blaming it on the pandemic. You can't get help because you don't pay any money. I have spoken to people who work for the county, that have worked for the county for 30 years, who just barely make $40,000. I really can't think of too many places that you can work for 30 years and not quite make $40,000 a year. So I think they have to look into tightening their belt in other places and raising up the salaries for their workers.
Can you give us an example of tightening in other places specifically, or an idea?
Well, I mean, if they filled those 100 beds in Meadowview, and, you charge $400 a day for a hospital, for a bed in a nursing home, which I think might be low, there's like $40,000 right there, just in maybe a day. My math is right. That's a lot of money. That's higher wages for people without expending too much, energy on doing anything. The beds are there. It's a fixed cost. The beds are there. The sheets are there. The roof is there. So it would be kind of a no-brainer. If they were in business, they would have been closed up a long time.
What do you believe is currently the single most pressing issue for Atlantic County residents, and how will you plan, or do you plan to address that issue?
Number one is finding housing for people. Last night on the Pleasantville City Council, we just enacted a rent control, which caps the amount that a landlord can charge at either 5% or whatever the CPI is. And the CPI right now is at 4%, so the max that they can charge, increase anybody's rent is 4%, because the landlords have just, and I think that's something that the county should institute. Countywide is rent controls, just so that people can't, move to a city. A landlord can't say, well, I'm going to sell these properties and buy a property here and raise it up because they don't have rent control. I think the county needs to have a countywide rent control.
Thank you. This next question is a little long. Atlantic County is a very ethnically and racially diverse county. And recent census data shows that 16% of the county residents are foreign-born. However, in Atlantic City, about 1/3 of residents are foreign-born. How do you plan to engage the county's diverse communities, and what would you say to those hurt by statements that paint all immigrants with one broad negative brush?
I'm a granddaughter of immigrants. My grandparents came over on a boat from Sicily. They were here for 75 years, and their English was still hard to understand. But they came here like everybody else, hoping for the American dream. And that's no different than anybody else. And anybody who makes statements about immigrants, unless they are Native Americans, you're an immigrant. Everybody's an immigrant. We all came over on different boats, but now we're in the same boat. And anybody that says that, blames anything on immigrants is absolutely abhorrent in my book. And if they're running for political office, they should not get one single vote. It's just
Okay, so was that the time? Okay, so you have 10 seconds to close us out with your final words.
Well, I don't know how many people realize it, but District 2 has been redistricted so that Pleasantville is included in its own separate district now. We used to be part of the district in Atlantic City. now Mr. Corsi's burden will be a little bit lessened by having Pleasantville with Absecon and Northfield and the other communities, the mainland communities will now be part of District 2. So I think that it will help that Pleasantville now has its own representation. I will represent everybody in my district, not only Pleasantville, but I will always have a soft spot for Pleasantville. Thank you.
Would like to invite Mr. Joseph Salerno, who will come up, give him some love. Amen. And he is offering himself to be our congressperson. And Mr. Salerno is going to be interviewed by a member of the community, Mr. John McGee. Amen. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. This is yours. Mr. McGee.
Good evening and welcome. My first question is going to be, tell us a little about yourself.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here today. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces. I'm a first-time candidate. I am a lifelong New Jersey resident. My wife and I raised our 4 children here. They're all New Jersey public school graduates, as are we. I was trained as a mechanical engineer. I spent the beginning part of my career making motors and gearboxes and valves, mostly for the aerospace industry. Thank you, sorry about that. It wasn't the most thrilling part if you missed it. But I got a chance to run my own business after a while. I've run several businesses, ranging from a machine shop that made stainless steel parts for military aircraft to software startups that use blockchain technology to serve the financial markets. In my spare time, I coached the local Hawkwater football league. I'm excited that Tim Walz has made that somehow political credential. And I also went to law school at night. And for a brief moment, thought I wanted to be an attorney. And although I do have a license, I don't really intend to practice. But I wanted to finish what I started. So I studied exclusively constitutional history, civil rights, and served in constitutional litigation, which gave me kind of a lifelong avocation in constitutional history. And it's a big motivator for wonderful congress.
If elected, what would you say would be, give me 3 of your greatest strengths in this position as congressman?
It's an interesting question. I think if you look at how an engineer approaches problems, it's rarely ideological. Right? Engineers have outcomes in mind. Right? We want to have a society that is more fair. If we want to provide economic security to people, or if we want to bring economic opportunity to overlooked districts, let's have those outcomes in mind, and then use core principles and then logic and reason. These are the tools of engineers and business people in order to affect outcomes. It's not about partisan bickering that tends to distract from useful outcomes. So I'd say that outlook would be my greatest strength. But having a passion for core American values in days like today, I think is also extraordinarily important because we have people who are trying to change what the very definition of Americanism means. And to me, Americanism means that we're a government of laws, that we're not a government of kings or churches, and we're all equal under those laws. None of us are less than, even childless cat ladies, and we each possess the liberty to live life as we please, not as others think we ought to live, so long as we don't intrude on the rights of others to do the same. So keeping that perspective of core principles is vitally important so that we don't trample on those freedoms while we set about trying to affect the outcomes we see. So I think I'll make it two. Maybe I'm short and bald, so I'm particularly good.
Being a first-time candidate, what actually prompted you to run?
It's very much the rise of partisan acrimony, the divisiveness, leading all the way up to January 6th. I mean, it was staggering to see that happen. When the election was called for Biden on November 7th, 2020, I remember it because it's one of our daughter's birthdays. The relief in my wife and I was so palpable that we actually wept because I thought the crisis had passed. But then, seeing the return of Trump, but seeing our own elected representative live through, witness the violence of January 6th, have hours to consider it, and come back to the floor of the House and vote to overturn the election, that's started me on the journey on how are we going to move into a part of our life when we on. But I mean, so many of us feel the same way, right? And that got us on the path, my wife and I, saying that we're going to begin the next phase of our lives will be in public service. And it's funny, Bobby Kennedy Sr. will sort and say and remind us that small groups of determined people throughout history have literally changed the world. And he reminded us that Archimedes said, "Give me a place to stand and a lever long enough, and I can move the earth." And it's that kind of inspiration that's got us looking around. Well, what's the most impactful thing we can do? And running against Jefferson Andrew, who has changed his position on every important issue that faces the people of South Jersey, it's really probably nothing more important than I could possibly imagine than I'm seeing.
What do you see as a primary goal of this accomplishment in this particular time that we're in?
I pause because I have two goals. There are goals that are policy goals. Like I don't want people to think that I desire to get to Congress and then don't have an agenda for the people of South Jersey. So I definitely want to advocate for restoring Roe v. Wade and vindicating women's right to choose. And I want to advocate for making the essentials of life more affordable. I mean, we're all facing higher prices everywhere. But when we think about higher prices in healthcare, in housing, in childcare, and education, it's essential that we change the trajectory of those prices. And we absolutely have to bring new economic opportunity to districts like our own. There's too many people struggling, and we have to bring so much of the opportunity that the Biden administration has made available through the Infrastructure Act, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. There's a $450 billion worth of stimulus that we need to work aggressively and collaboratively with the state, with higher education, with private industry to bring these kind of opportunities back to us. But the reason why I hesitated in answering, I think, as important as working to get votes in those areas, it's also about being a voice for bipartisan progress. Many years ago, President Kennedy, who was then still a senator, he wrote profiles of courage. And he said that traditional political patterns of liberal versus conservative, of management versus labor, of business versus consumer, were boxing us in. He's back then 70 years ago. He said, we can no longer tolerate such lazy political habits. He said that you have to have courage in politics, and not just courage to defend principle, but the courage of competence. He said we can resolve the clash of interests without conceding our ideals. Because there's few issues where all of the truth and all of the right and all of the angels are on just one side. And it's beautiful, rather. But I think we want to try to put that into action. We need to come to a deliberative body like the House of Representatives with a mindset that says there's potential that I am fallible and I will have respect for contrary opinion, and that we will try to make progress where we can, even if we can't get everything we wish. And we'll work with anyone who's willing to come to that body with a reciprocal attitude. And that, I think, it's so rare these days that it starts with a voice. So I'd love to bring that voice to Congress.
Young people tend not to vote. You have 1 minute. Young people tend not to vote. What will you do in order to get younger people involved in the process and hopefully be elected later on in life?
So I hope treating them with respect is a good start. Right? Unlike the current congressman, I certainly intend to be back in district routinely, to go to various areas in the district and listen. I don't come to Congress with a belief that I have the answer to every problem. And at 62 years old, I might have actually lost some perspective on what it's like to be in your second or third decade. So that's where I'm saying.
We have 1 minute, so I think we have about a half a minute left. I'm going to give you that half a minute to do your closing statement.
Oh my. So I was so excited about the colloquy, I didn't think about a big close. But look, we really are at a crossroads. We are either going to embrace division and people who excite passions. Right? This is the great threat to democracy, is when we have leaders who excite jealousy, stimulate animosity, foment prejudice, because we're not using our reason when we are excited in those ways. And it's the reason that will get us through the difficult problems that we face, right? We do need to beat inflation. We need to bring economic security to those in need. We have to restore reproductive rights, fight climate change, stop foreign aggression. We need to fix the border and control the deficit. And we got to bring hope of a prosperous, happy future for our young generations. That's what I hope we can accomplish. So,
Thank you for being here.
I really hope that you can deeply appreciate the format that we've offered tonight. We'd like to give people the opportunity to share and to express and to reveal and to open themselves up to. So I really thank you for your patience and understanding. We now have, I also want to thank all of our interviewers and all the dear folks who sat in the seats. And now we have another opportunity to hear from the school board. We want to apologize publicly that tonight there is a school board meeting, and many of our school board members were kind of torn between being there and being there. So I take the blame for that because the scheduling was on mine, and I just say, I just need to receive grace. Amen? Say grace, grace, grace. Thank you. So we do have someone, young man who's here, and this is Mr. Ronald Bailey. And Mr. Bailey is here, and he'll be coming up, and he will be interviewed by our own Reverend Dr. Bishop William Green. Amen. And he will be a part of this. Can you make it okay? Hey, another servant. Amen. Okay. Let's give him a round of applause. We thank everyone so much, Dr. Green.
Congratulations on your candidacy. Thank you for your willingness to be here tonight, particularly in view of the fact that there is a Board of Education meeting tonight. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Let's try to use this time to get the community to know as much as possible about you and the candidacy. All right? Yes.
So I grew up in Atlantic City. I've been a resident of Atlantic City for the past 39 years. I've worked as an EMT for the last 20 years. I just recently retired from that field of work back in 2022. When I got out of that field, I was trying to find a way to continue to give back to the community, so I got into the funeral business, which I know is a little weird. Went from saving people to kind of push them into the other side, but I've learned a lot moving into that field of work. I get to interact more with families. I get to help people in need. And it's just a very rewarding career, especially coming from a career that was running around night and day, lights and sirens, running red lights, getting yelled at, getting spit on. And doing this now in this field of work is very interesting. It gives me a chance to give back to the community. It also gives me a chance to help families in need. I don't have any children. This is my first time running for school board. So it's an exciting experience so far, and hopefully I get elected so that I can experience that more.
All right. Why are you running for the school board? Is there a particular issue that drives you, or why are you running?
So running for school board, I avoided running for school board many years. People have approached me to run for school board. They say it's a great starting point. You should run for school board. However, my uncle worked for the schools for 25 years. He recently passed away this past year. He worked at this school as a teacher's aide for a number of years. And I figured a way of continuing his legacy for what he did here in Atlantic City was to finally accept the challenge and run for school board. So I decided that I want to keep his memory alive, and I want to do the same things that he did to help impact the youth here in Atlantic City.
I see, okay. You mentioned your experiences and the skills that you've developed along the way. How your experiences and skills, how have they prepared you to serve in the school board?
The biggest experience is obviously listening to people's concerns and then coming up with a solution. And I think the way to solve the problems within our school district is to have parents more involved with their child's education, giving parents more of a voice as to what their children are learning and what our schools are teaching. We definitely need to work on making sure that our parents are involved in what's going on so that we can have a successful education platform here in Atlantic City that helps our youth prepare for high school and college and for the future.
What do you see as the primary work of this board of education?
The primary work is to set forth a foundation that our teachers and educators here in Atlantic City work on to promote a strong education for our youth. And if we're not providing the proper materials to those teachers, then our children aren't learning what they need to learn to better themselves to be ready for the future.
Could you support a Board of Education decision that you did not vote in favor of? Tell us why or why not.
I could support anything that benefits our youth and that will strengthen the purpose of our school board. Unfortunately, right now with our school board, we have a lot of members who are conflicted and can't vote on a lot of items. So having a
couple members on the school board who aren't conflicted and don't have those conflicts that will affect their decisions on things will help promote a better education for our youth.
Okay. Well, if it was something that you did not agree with, and the board passed it anyway, how would you handle that?
I would handle it like anything else. I would hear it through, see why I don't agree with it, and maybe ask for it to be placed on the next board agenda so that I can get a better understanding of why the other board members are pushing for that. Every day we learn something new, and obviously we have to have an open mind when it comes to an elected office to understand that someone is putting something in front of us for a reason. Maybe there's input that we don't know, so it's just a matter of being open-minded about everything.
This next question has to do with transparency. How can the board be more accessible to the community or to specific community groups? How would you promote that?
I think the easiest way to answer that question is to be more involved in schools, be in the schools, go visit the schools, see who you're representing. Have small meetings with parents, let the parents speak with you and understand, if there's concerns that parents have or there's concerns that the students have, then all the board members should be open to speaking to the parents or speaking to the children to understand what the concerns are with the community. So we have to build a bridge between the Board of Education and the community, and that goes back to that, having the parents involved in the education, because then they then get to voice their concerns on what's going on in the schools.
With respect to the educational programs within the schools themselves, what issues do you believe the district, the school board, needs to address in its academic programs and offerings? What changes would you recommend that the schools can make?
Well, speaking with some of the residents, a big concern is our test scores, specifically in math and reading, and the lack of arts programs that our youth are involved in the schools. There's also been a concern for recreation that was cut out during COVID. And going back to what one of the other presenters said, the COVID 4 years ago is still being used as an excuse for programs that were removed during that period and not returned to our schools.
So, with respect to, you mentioned honors, which is often cut, among the first to be cut. Are you familiar with the Board of Education budget?
Yes.
How would you approach making cuts if you would support keeping arts in the school?
I mean, you look at the budget and there's $4.5 million listed as other expenditures in the budget for the Board of Education. So that's the first area I would look at to see where that money's going. But we also have to look at the money that's being spent on computerized learning that was used during COVID, that we spent to get the computer-aided systems that are not being used right now. Maybe there's a way that we can put those away and not spend the money on those licenses for the online learning, because we don't need them right now. We have kids in school. So those are areas that I would look at specifically, the online learning licenses that we're spending over $100,000 for, and then that $4.4 million in other expenses.
Let's see. What do you think the role is of schools teaching children topics such as sex education, cyber safety, AIDS, wellness, bullying, and civic responsibility? We can address any issues that are of particular interest to you.
I think bullying is a number one that has to be taught. We have to start that at a young age. I think our children are misguided on what constitutes bullying and not bullying.
As far as the sexual-oriented lessons that we see going on in other states that they're trying to incorporate into the lessons, I think those are reserved for high school level students and not our youth below 7th or 8th grade. We don't need to be poisoning our youth with that stuff at a young age, especially when they're not age of what they're being taught. So definitely bullying would be the number one thing that I would make sure is taught in school, starting from kindergarten all the way through high school, and then any other subject that teaches economics or fundamental classes that will get people ready for the future.
Well, I've been notified that we have less than a minute now. So, are there any other topics that you would like the community to know about your qualifications for the Board of Education that I didn't ask you?
So the only other thing that I will put out there is I'm very strong and support ensuring safety for our students. I want to develop a comprehensive plan for all of our schools to make sure that our schools are proactive when it comes to anything that can occur in our schools, whether it's school shootings that we see going on. We've seen an increase in the last couple of weeks with people sharing data online that says, oh, here's a list of schools that are going to be affected. We have schools being closed because of it. So we need to make sure that we're training all of our schools and all of our students to be better prepared in the event that something does happen in one of our schools, and then making sure that all of our teachers and staff are also trained in that field.
My, how time flies when you have fun. Thank you for being here.
Before we leave, I just want the four wonderful persons who came tonight to come to the front. Miss Kim, Miss Joe, and also to the sister there, Miss Renee. Let's give them all just a round of applause. Because it takes courage sometimes. It really does take courage. We have a term that we say in theology is, I stand before people naked. That's biblical. That's a great expression that you can see. You see the real me. You know, there's the true self, but there's the false self. There's the self that we put out there for everybody to like. Then there's the true self that we will feel tonight that these candidates and many more will come before us and just display their true self. Again, thank Dr. Green, Sister Natalie, Brother John, and myself for our cooperation, working together. And also, too, if you can just turn, we have some young ladies back there with the vote. Would you come up here, please? Come up here, my two voting registration leaders. These young ladies you will see all throughout the city of Atlantic City, and they are with the NAACP. They are our voter registration team. And I think they're going to be this week, or the team will be this week, the 22nd, at Browns Park for an event. Another event, October the. But you'll see them around, and also Dr. Green and myself will just be out encouraging people to vote. We do not tell you who to vote for. We just encourage you to vote. Okay? Yes. You want to say something?
Maria Talib lives in Jefferson Tower. Jeffries, I'm sorry, dear. And she's going to have a table for the residents this Saturday also. So if you know any residents at Jeffries Tower that is a registered voter to come down, and Maria will be there. But October 15th is the deadline for the state of New Jersey. And there is one thing we did find out, that if a person is 17 now, but by November the 5th, they'll be 18 years old, they'll be able to vote.
So that's very important for us to hit the youth. And I'm trying to think what else we have found out about voter registration. With the homeless, we also are able to register the homeless if they have an address, and Reverend Miller has a facility, and he said to me, no problem, we can use that address. So as long as they're able to receive the voter information, they can vote. So we're going to hit the homeless also.
So I'll say amen and amen. Yes, sir, Dr. Green.
I think it's worth mentioning that at these voter registration drives, that if you have needs and you need to change your address, or if there is a name change, please make that change before the voting starts this year, so that you'll be able to vote this year.
Well, I think we've done many great things. I think we've done so much. I want to now turn the remaining time that we have is 7:30, so we are under our time at 8 o'clock. But to our esteemed president, Dr. Wayne Chavez. Give us some love.
Thank you, Reverend Miller. How do you like this format? I think this is a very, very good format. So we're going to, going forward, use this format. Let me just make a quick announcement. We have signs. If we run out of signs, give us your name and we'll make sure that we deliver a sign to you. I want to say again, thank the candidates. What we're going to do with the school board candidates, we're going to invite them to be on the radio program because they would have been here. We give Reverend Miller grace. Reverend Miller's a hard worker. We just had a little mix-up with their meeting. So we're going to let the school board candidates come and be interviewed on the radio program with Reverend Miller and whoever he wants to ask them questions. The school board is a very important board. All of them are important, but the school board is a critical board. So we're going to allow them to be on the radio program. Shameless plug. Please listen to our radio program, WEHA 88.7, 100.3 FM, every Tuesday from 4:30 to 5:30. And Council President Ernest Forty Randolph is a regular contributor talking about voting and other issues. So we thank him for his support. Thank Michael Johnson also. He was with Timekeeper. Brother Johnson is the timekeeper every year, and he makes sure that everybody adheres to the time. Thank each and every one of you for your support. Raymond Tyler, our member, is always available. He has a publication. What's the name of your publication, Dr. AtlanticCityFocus.com. AtlanticCityFocus.com. And if you want to know what's happening in Atlantic City, read AtlanticCityFocus.com. Thank you very much for Brother Tyler for being here. He's going to put his information online. Mr. Solano, you asked about the picture being on there. Check out Raymond Tyler. He has that. He is a media professional, and he has access to all of that. Rick K-Sign, thank you so much for making sure that we're on the air. I was talking to Hawks. William Hawks, who is the owner, the president of WHA, thank you for allowing us to expand our audience. We know people are listening to WHA who couldn't get here, and we want to thank him every year when we have a candidates night. William Hawks lets us be on WHA Live. When we have Martin Luther King, William Hawks allows us to broadcast that. When we have other activities in community, we're on WHA Live. And we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Please get home safe. Charles Goodman, I was at Howard University Saturday, man. The sisters, see the picture? You want to sign? You got that one back too.